Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Today's course is a video foundation course. This is a 4-day training. As you might have gone through um, the details about the course, the idea is to bring you up to speed mm, from the basics of CCTV all the way to the control room. We have been doing this course for almost 2 years now. We have updated a few contents, and this course is recognized by BICSI for CEC credits. If you have ASIS certification like CPP or PSP, you can also use for CP E credits. So we are recognized by both agencies or associations for providing courses which offer credits. All right. So if you have already attended, there are a few new things, more details added onto the AI section. But today's course, it's actually divided into 4 days, right? So if you have seen the agenda, it would be covering from, let's say, let me go back here just a second. Here we go. So we start with the vendor classification, the components of the camera, lens related, lighting related technologies, a little bit on networking. Okay. So similarly, day two, day three, day four, we have different topics that we will cover. I will send you the PDF copy as well. During the first break, I will attach the PDF copy so you can download it directly from this interface. Also, I will send you the PDF copy by email. You can download it. The session will be parallelly recorded for future references. Then, in order to be eligible for the certificate, there is couple of things that you have to keep in mind. Attendance throughout the course is mandatory as per the BICSI policy to issue the CP credits or CC credits. So it is mandatory. Then we will have a basic quiz. This is not a exam type. This is a basic quiz to evaluate your listening and your learning. So it will have very few questions. So that will also be evaluated. So based on both, at the end of 4 days, we will issue the certification. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's begin. Myself, S- Samuel Kumar. I am based in Dubai. I work for Hanwha TechWin, and now it is renamed to Hanwha Vision. Okay. So our company name is now Hanwha Vision. Okay. So this course is also brought to you by Hanwha Vision, and I have been in the security industry for over 13 years and been focusing on Middle East and Africa for security related projects. I work with consultants, system integrators, and also end users. And my main goal is to provide trainings, general trainings, product specific trainings, operator trainings, and so on. We do trainings online, offline, and in other regions, not only in Dubai. We have two training centers here. We do trainings in Saudi, we do trainings in Egypt, we do trainings in Qatar and other places also. So if you need any trainings, sporadic specific trainings, you can get in touch with me. But today's course is not a product specific. As you saw, it's a video foundation course, a general training. All right. So it's the basics and also what's new in the technology in the CCTV market. All right. So let's go further. For those who are interested, we are natively a South Korean company. We are a Fortune 500 conglomerate. We are a group company. We manufacture many products. We are into different divisions, chemicals, defense, and so on. One of the division is into CCTV. Okay, and our product name is called Wisenet. Okay, let's go further. All right. The first thing that you have to keep in mind is when you, as a CC engineer, some of you have been working in the industry for more than 5 years. You would have had a better understanding by now. But those who are working new, or those who are just new, you may be tempted to see so many brands, and you may be tempted to start working with them for many reasons. Maybe a relationship, or maybe product pricing, or maybe the specification looks fine. So you may be tempted, but there are some checklists that you have to keep in mind without any compromise. This is mandatory. So the first point is you have to make sure that the company that you're working with, it should be a matured global company. And when you say matured global company, any CCTV company with over 10 plus years of experience in the I'm really sorry. With over 10 plus years of experience in your market, in your region, okay, or your neighboring country, right? So that is a fairly similar climate, similar market kind of situation. So in that way you should work with. Secondly, the company should have global presence. If you're working for CCTV cameras for a small house, it's okay, you don't have to go through the checklist. But if you're working for a projects where you're looking for a solid system with a good support, long-term support, you need to look at whether the company has got global presence. Okay, a company may be in the Silicon in Valley of US, but doesn't matter. But do they have the local experience? Yeah, so you need to keep that in mind. So the reason for that is every region is different, every climatic conditions are different, every region has their own regulatory requirements. Many of you are already aware of SIRA, Dubai police requirement, Abu Dhabi government requirement, banking regulation requirement, then transportation requirement. So there are many requirements that is regionally needed, integration, for example. So you have to make sure that there is a local presence so they can support you, and also they can customize the products depending on the local region, right? So this is something you have to keep in mind. Secondly, also because the next point you will see is like service center and so on. So particular this service center in your region or neighboring region is somewhat okay. So if a company also has got a service center in the same country, it is much better. So if there are any concerns or any issues, any spare parts that is needed, uh, it will be supported immediately on urgent basis. So that helps. Then R&D team. And if you want to work with a true CCTV company, it should have R&D team, not one or two people. In order to do a CCTV camera, just like a house, you have to have electrical engineers, you have to have mechanical engineers, you need to have maybe people with the electronic some background. If you want to do automation, you need to have overall regulatory law. You need to have different people. Same way in CCTV, every camera has got optical engineering, electronics engineering, a manufacturing process. So there are many components that go in the CCTV camera. So R&D team should be present to make sure that the product is solid and unique. And also when we say unique, it is having that brand's mission in the camera. For example, we strive to have a very good quality product, strong, stable, reliable product with good features and good value. So we try to be in the top five of every department that we work in, not only in CCTV. We are in defense, we are in aerospace, we are in petrochemical, solar, we are into every division. You will see we are in the top five or top 10. So we strive to be there. Okay, now if a company does not really have R&D, they would just buy it from someone and change the label and give it to you. Now, that's a very, very scary thing, because uh, in case of any concerns, you cannot just they cannot modify the camera, they cannot change anything in the software of the camera. They just have to ask the OEM supplier. The OEM supplier cannot do it just for one project, right? So there is a lot of legal agreements between the vendor and the OEM, so there are challenges there. But if the company has got its own R&D team, and they know their product because they developed it, so any changes they can do it on the go, right, on the field as required. So make sure a company has got a solid R&D team in every department. Some companies have only software, some companies are only into they may have R&D only for the software. That means they buy the product from someone and they just inject their software. So still there is a challenge because the components in they don't have the experience of the lenses, they don't have the experience of the sensors, they may not have the they may not be able to choose what lenses to go. If they do, well and good, but if they don't, that means you're just going to get a substandard product with a good software. So a software can be excellent, but if you use a substandard sensor, you're going to get substandard image quality. It doesn't matter the companies from a European or American, it doesn't matter. What goes in the hardware comes out at the end of the day. Manufacturing plant, this is for large projects. uh, you can, for example, let's say you need unique customizations for your cameras, or you need long-term relationship with certain customers. That means you have to keep them updated with new regulations, new cameras, new resolutions. So you need to work with a vendor who's always, up to speed in the market, right? Is not sleeping or catching up. So a vendor who's got a solid manufacturing plant, he would be able to keep updated with the camera technologies as well as make certain customizations as required. If you have any further questions, you can also ask in the chat window. I can also unmute you. Hi Faisal, you have a question?
Hi, hi. If someone else want to
Okay,
join the webinar, they can register
yeah,
now.
they can register, no worries. And just uh, let, let me know once they registered in the chat window. I will go and quickly approve it. So they will get the access link. Okay.
So which link I should use?
Uh, you let me send you one link in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me just get this sorted. Okay. So let's proceed. So we started with global company. We started with R&D team. Then we also talked about manufacturing plant. Uh, Next is a training center. Now I have taken here an example on the right side. I cannot speak for other companies, so I have. Whenever we talk about new technologies or new products or new things, uh, as an example, I will use our product to demonstrate, so you have a fair idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go. Training center. This is obvious. Uh, Training center. Who knows the product more than the vendor themselves, right? So you should be trained to make sure you are installing the camera properly, you're utilizing or you're configuring the camera properly, so you can also let's say uh, you don't have to depend on someone for the security operators and so on. So the trainings can be extensive, can be advanced, can be basic, it doesn't matter, but there should be some sort of training availability from the vendor. And uh, it can be online, it can be offline, so make sure you have training support from the vendor. Next is a local team, as we talked about. uh, no one can understand or no one can speak for on your behalf to a company based in Korea or a company based in US with so many miles, so many, so many, such a far different continent. They cannot understand you unless and until you have someone here who speaks on your behalf. All right. So that is mandatory. You need to have a local team in whichever country you're working with. So the vendors' representatives are there to come and see what's going on, to understand, to speak to you, and then of course to fulfill your project requirements or design requirements. So you need to have local team, design team, sales team, technical support. This is also important. Okay. Then experience. We already talked about it. A company should be global. There is many shortcut ways to find out whether the company is global. You can go to their website. You can check whether many of the CCTV companies are Fortune 500 companies. We are a Fortune 500 company. There are many brands which are Fortune 500. So that's a easy way to start. So you know you're working with a very large company which is backed up by a good finance source. Uh, can see. Yeah, the slides are still, we are working on the first slide, vendor checklist. Next is references. Um, this this speaks for itself. References. Okay. Uh, why do you need references? So sometimes the word references is very simple, right? If someone has already used the product, they refer it to you. They say, hey, I have used it. It's suitable for me, and I think it is suitable for you because you have similar requirement. Same way, if you're working with vendor who have good experience or good references in hotels, that means they have understood the aspects of the client requirements. For a hotel, it could be, first of course, they need a good CCTV security system which is stable, and also hotel projects are 24 hours guest driven or public driven, so there will be many incidents. So they should have good backend system for supporting investigation purposes. Then of course, the aesthetically the camera should be good looking, and there will be regulations monitoring hotels because it's a public property. And of course, it should not be uh, s- it should be within certain budget. So every hotel there will be a certain budget, and uh, so considering that, they can refer it to you. If it is city surveillance, climate conditions, it is always on the streets, it is facing all the rugged environment, and subject to vandalism, and again security as well, and reliability, long term reliability, less repairs and failure rates and so on. So all this and certain customizations. So if a customer or if a vendor has a project reference for city surveillance, that means it's easy for you, that somebody has already tested it. So look for project references, and you can also ask a vendor to have a site visit. Sometimes it's available. For banking, also banking, high level of cybersecurity products, then certain security special settings will be enabled for security purposes because they are all IP devices. Then of course, certain form factors are required because banks are not like hotels. They are small confined spaces, and they need to have and they will have multiple branches. They need to do centralization. So every project is different, but at the end, yeah, it's all a camera and software. but there will be some change, there will be some differences in the solution, and the products will have certain differences also in their proposal, in the design. All right. Lastly, cybersecurity. Make sure you work with vendors who have a very solid cybersecurity background. This goes without saying. Um, Today's world, it is important because anything, if your camera is hacked, it just takes one incident to completely blacklist you from the region for or all government projects, and have a heavy fine. So you lose everything, right? So try to work with vendors who have solid support. They have emergency response team. There can be vulnerabilities, yeah, but they should be fixed. It should not be slept over. So the vendor should have a response team in case of something goes wrong. So work with certain vendors who have a strong cybersecurity policies, right? And they apply it. They just don't talk about it, not just talking, but they also apply it. So these are the couple of points that you have to keep in mind. We call it as vendor checklist. And you, if you're a consultant, you can specify a vendor to have at least 10 years local experience. Vendor should have a training center. Many see, we provide trainings free of cost. Like this training is free, some vendors charge, but that's okay. So it depends on the vendor to vendor. So uh, make sure there is a trainings included in the specification, right? A project is worth $500,000, but a training can be just $500 by some vendor. Okay, doesn't matter, right? It's just a small amount, but training is important. You can specify in your specification saying whoever is working on the design or the implementation should be a certified person from the vendor. That allows some level of comfort that the person that you're speaking to has knowledge on the product. Okay, then of course the rest of the points you can use depending on your project requirement. So, right, let's go to the next. Just to give you a brief, for example, us, we have trainings, pre-sales trainings for design team. We have post-sales training for products. If we have camera product, we have training for camera, beginner level, professional level. If we have recording solution, we have training on that. Similarly, access control. We also do consultant sessions because that's the only way to educate them about new technologies and how they can use it on the project, right? So there is always projects being worked on which are 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead. So you should work with certain new technologies that will make the project at the time of handover latest, right? So you don't have to hand over and then update as per the regulation. Next, webinars and product updates. These are standard trainings provided by any typical vendor. Okay, a vendor can have training labs, training facility where the customer or whoever is installing will get physical hands-on experience, right? They will study the product, they will configure the product, they will understand the product, uh, go through certain challenges. So that helps them to uh, deliver a quality, handover for you. All right, next is okay. Let's have a quick look at this video. It's about product quality. So here we can see the products are going through multiple testing, vibration testing during transportation, drop testing, then surge protection testing, and temperature testing, humidity testing, image quality, water protection testing. So all these are different testing processes that the vendor does for the product. Okay, image reproduction. So you have a fair idea of how every product goes through this kind of testing. Okay, so who does this? If someone else is doing it, uh, if it's a OEM or someone else, some other vendor who's supplying to five, six companies with changing their name may not be, uh, it may not be unique technology, I mean, vendor driven product, right? So if a vendor is having its own manufacturing plant, his own R&D center, testing center, you will see there is a very vast difference in the actual physical product when you implement. Okay, references. This is not the exact photo, just taken it from open source. Uh, Large references like city-wide references, transportation references, public. Abu Dhabi, we have example like for example Abu Dhabi city surveillance. We have many banks in Saudi, Bank al Jazeera, Arab National Bank with 5,000, 18, and 18,000 cameras. Musharraf, downtown Qatar. So all these are local references, not just one or two cameras in every environment possible, outdoor, indoor, streets. So banks and customers, different customer base. So you can get an idea that this product has been tested for this local environment. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next topic. What are the components in the camera? This is one of my most commonly used slides. The idea behind this slide is to just give you that breakdown of the camera itself. So if you look at the camera, it may look quite simple, straightforward for you. Uh, all right, may look straightforward. So if you have a closer look, you can break the camera into many components. This is why I said you should have engineering in different field. So the camera can have a construction of metal, construction of plastic. If the camera is indoor, let me take another picture and show this to you. So a camera can have plastic housing. A camera can have I just took these pictures in the morning. It can have metal housing, right? Can have, you see plastic housing, you don't see any screws outside because it's just clipped and it looks good for indoor environments, false ceiling environments. It's okay. The outdoor cameras will have metal housing, more resistant towards vandalism and also other rusting and other things. So they will have, because it's metal, you need to fasten it securely with screws. So you can have that. So outdoor housings will also have additional protection for waterproofing. So you will see that. You can see the black color seal again to prevent water from going through. But an indoor camera may not have this. Indoor camera may be just at the back. You will not see such seals, protection seals, because they are indoor, not 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 vulnerable to rain or so and so, right, or dust. So different types of cameras are available. So some level of engineering is required. For example, the plastic, uh, there are different types of plastic. You should also use which is vandal resistant. Secondly, if it is metal, what type of paint is used, what is the thickness of the metal, what should be the weight. So you cannot have a very heavy camera which can fall on your head and kill a person. So you should also have all this balance, vandal protection and other things. Then secondly, let's go back here. The bubble of the camera, the bubble of the camera is also now vandal protected. What is vandal protection? If you or me try to damage the bubble, we cannot. You can try to bring a hammer and try to hit it, you cannot break. Let me pull out one shot. Let me just change your PowerPoint to explain to you how it looks like. So a person carrying a hammer can go and try to damage the bubble. Bubble is very important, right? Because let's say if you are wearing a glass, if your glass is cracked, you cannot really see properly. If you're driving in a car, if the window shield is full of dust and muddy and broken, you cannot really see. Same way, it doesn't matter if the camera is excellent. If the bubble is not of good standard or it's cracked easily, then there's no point. The camera cannot really perform. So you can see here, there are two types of, this guy is taking a rock and he's trying to damage the glass broken. You see polycarbonate. So the bubble is made of, uh, it looks like a glass, but it's actually a polycarbonate. So you can see here he's trying to take a hammer, glass broken, acrylic. So what material to use? Also, there is some level of engineering required. So this is polycarbonate. Okay. So cameras use such bubbles, polycarbonate bubbles, so they can withstand vandalism. Okay. Next, lenses. So there are different types of lenses available. There can be zoom lenses, standard lenses, long range lenses. So depending on the requirement, the vendor will put different types of lenses in the camera. Sometimes what they do, the vendor, they don't just put a single, for example. So this is like a PTC camera lens. They don't put only, for example, okay, let me, for example, take your mobile phone. In your mobile phone today, let's take iPhone. When you go to the video screen or when you try to take a photo, you see there are many options: 1x, 3x, or you in the back of the phone you can see three cameras. Some have two cameras, so some have just one camera. So the lesser the number of camera, less flexibility. The reason why some, for example, let me take a photo. Let me explain here. So you see here, this guy has got three cameras. So one is for zoom, one is for wide angle, and one is for standard lens, right? Wide angle, standard lens, and zoomed. Okay, in CCTV, we don't provide three separate lenses. What we do, we give you a adjustable lens. Okay, we give you all in one, but that is adjustable with the knob. You can zoom in, zoom out, and some of these lenses have motors. For example, if I go to 192.168.1.56. So this camera is looking at the entrance. Some of these lenses have a built-in motor to the lens, so I can adjust remotely. I can zoom in, I can zoom out remotely. You don't have to physically go and turn the knob or rotate the lens. So these are called motorized lenses, but the whole concept is called adjustable or varifocal lens. The focal length can be adjusted depending on the scene. So for some reason, this particular scene, I need privacy for the meeting room, then I will zoom all the way only to the door. If this particular room is a waiting area, I need to see as much as possible, so I will go zoom out as much as possible. So I hope you got the idea. So the idea is to, uh, the vendor will not know exactly what you're going to do with the camera, right? So he will give you a range in the same camera. You can adjust as you need. But there are cameras with fixed lenses. That means you can only view at a certain location and you cannot zoom in or zoom out. So both options are available. Okay. Now, what is special here? Making a lens is also not simple, right? You need to have special optical engineering. You need to have very special production facility, and your lens should be capable of looking through another dome bubble. This polycarbonate bubble, and it should provide proper focus at different lighting conditions, different situations. So a lot of work needs to be done with the lens, and it should provide good light in good image in low light condition, good image in strong light condition. It should have good iris adjustments. So many things are there, right? So this is where a vendor specialization comes into. So some vendors have very special lenses. We have certain special lenses which you cannot find outside. Others may have, but this also requires some level of engineering. Okay, so for example, a lens. So many of uh, for example, 2 MP lens, 4K lens. Even in lens, there are 4K resolution lenses. The lenses are designed to resolve 4K resolution. There are lenses only for full HD, full HD lenses. Okay, they can only handle up to 2 megapixel. So even in lenses there is resolution resolving power. There are some low cost vendors. What they do, they give you 4K sensor camera, but they put 2 megapixel lens and they try to reduce the cost. So even lenses should be designed for certain specific resolution to have that word called resolving power, to give you fine details when you zoom in and look for specific people. Now, there is one part in this camera that is not visible, that I have taken a photo. Let me show it. Okay, so what you see here, inside this, there is something called sensor. Okay, this is not lens. This is just a sensor, image sensor. What is the purpose of image sensor? Okay, let me explain after viewing the video. So there is a lens. So this guy is a lens, and the lens is attached to the camera. Cameras have built-in lenses, so these cameras have built-in lenses. Box cameras, you can put separate lens. So you got the idea. So there is sensor component and there is a lens component. Some people can get confused. What is sensor? What is lens? So if you see again, the sensor will be 4K. So this sensor inside should be also 4K, as well as the lens that goes on it should be 4K. Or if it is both 2 megapixel, well and good. Or both 5 megapixel, well and good. Okay, there are different combinations available. The size of the sensor, the bigger the sensor, the more expensive, the more better it can do in low light. The type of sensor, CMOS or CCD, we will see that. And also the lens capability to uh, capture light, because the light is captured by the lens and it falls on the sensor. That light is converted into electrical signal by the sensor. Got it? And then there are other electronic components which we will see in the coming slides. All right, so now overall, we just covered a few components: the construction, the bubble, the lens, the sensor. Then what is left? The processor, the CPU. Okay, in camera, if you take a computer, you have CPU, but you also have a separate RAM card, you have separate graphics card, you have separate Ethernet, I mean ports and other things, right? But in CCTV, we call it system on chip, because it is a combination of all this uh, in one chip, not just CPU. It has got CPU, digital image processing, and other peripherals inside that. So that's why it's called system on chip. Okay, now system on chip, many vendors don't make it. If you take even in the laptop computers, not everybody makes the CPU. Intel is making, and maybe few other companies. Same way in CCTV, we are making our own chipset, but similarly in CCTV, there are 5 to 6 companies who make their own chipset. Okay, it is responsible for everything. Just like your laptop, how much performance, how much analytics, how much of image quality it can do, similarly chipset is directly responsible for the processing. That's where the money is, that's where the cost is. That's where many low cost vendors cut cost, right? They give you a very basic chipset and it can do only few things. If you want to do two things at once, you have to disable one and turn on the second feature. So they have many limitations. But there are vendors who are truly CCTV oriented when it comes to customer satisfaction, customer requirements. They give you that flexibility. So um, having a good camera chipset is also important, equally important. right? Your image sensor is 4K, your lens is 4K, but the processor cannot handle 4K image. Then what's the point? You will get choppy images, right? 30 frames you cannot get, you will get 10 frames. So that also depends. WDR you cannot get. So many issues can happen. You cannot compress the image properly. It depends on the chipset. You cannot run all the analytics at the same time. Again, chipset, right? So real-time processing, again, chipset. Everything is at the end of the day goes back to the chipset. So chipset is important. We develop and make our own chipset. Some vendors outsource. It is okay, but as long as the chipset is finely tuned for CCTV applications. Okay, so what makes Hanwha different and a few other vendors compared to 300 companies in CCTV market? There are 5 to 6 companies who are different because they make their own chipset. They own the technology. What they provide to you, what they say they have, they own it. They don't outsource to some other factory and give it. So recently there was a chipset shortage. For Hanwha didn't have any issues because we make our own chipset. Okay. Next, overall software. Okay. The camera interface is a software. So when you saw here, I was trying to zoom in. Dot 56. This interface that you're looking at, you see how seamless it is. It is not even asking to do download any plugin. I'm looking at a live video. I'm not using any VLC player. I can record directly from the web page. I can take a snapshot from the web page. I can use any Chrome browser on your mobile phone or on laptop. I can see the video. I can access the SD card. I can go to the settings and so on. So you see the whole interface is very, very sleek. It's good. It's quite feature rich and it's more organized. Yeah. So when you make some settings, for example, when you do some settings like let's take analytics or motion, you have a snapshot of what scene you're looking at. You can make some adjustments. So how easily you can configure the camera, that also makes a difference. You can have this whole menu button without an image, so you don't know what you're configuring. You'll just click something, then go back to another screen and check whether it is working. You don't have to do that. You can do it directly from here. You can ask somebody to move, it will show here, okay, everything is working fine. So there are ways where a vendor can make life easier for the customer. Okay, by adding many settings. We have added many more options here. You see after, before. So you know when you make some changes, what happened, what changed. So this interface you may not find, right? In many places you cannot find. They will have the feature, but you have no idea what is going on. Okay, so these are the things that you have to keep in mind, that whole software, who's developing it, right? So if the vendor himself is developing, definitely there will be a big difference, and also it will be constantly updated, and any changes, any bugs, I can quickly fix it. All right, so when you took the breakdown, camera body can be plastic indoor, metal based is used outdoor, stainless steel housing is also there. If you're near the seashore, you need more rust protection, you will use stainless steel. There is also certified housing, we call it oil and gas, used in very um, explos environments having explosives, right? So you need certified housings called ATEX or IEC. Today we cannot go into that level of details, but they are called explosion proof cameras for used in petrol stations, mining, coal mining, or oil refineries and so on. Then the bubble can be standard. Standard is no longer used nowadays. Most of them are vandal resistant, and standard is basic glass. Then fixed lens, adjustable lens, long range zoom lens to check number plates and so on. Then the chipset of the camera, then the software that's running on the camera, then other additional features. Cameras can have microphone to listen to audio, they can have alarm inputs, they can have image stabilization so the image is not shaking, they can have IR illuminators just like your mobile phone is having a flashlight, white LED, same way camera can have IR LED to see in night time, they can have SD card. So these are additional components that can be in the camera. Most of them are now almost like standard. Okay, so okay, for taking our example of Hanwha, we've been making chipsets for a long time. Right now we have Wisenet 5 chipset, Wisenet 7 chipset, with more additional cybersecurity functions. Okay, so if you break down the camera, first was the lens. The light falls onto the uh, lens, captures the light, goes to the image sensor converts the electrical light, sorry, converts the light to electrical signal, then it is processed by the digital signal processing. All the processing is done, then the image is packed, compressed, and then sent over the network codec H.264, H.265, JPEG. There is a format, right? So universally JPEG. You know what is JPEG? Image format. Everybody knows that. PDF. We all know that. Same way in video, there is a format. So that format it will pack and send the video over the network. But you know, I mean, if you take in a DSLR camera, it will not send in raw format. If you send raw format 40 MB for one photo or 50 MB for one photo, that means no compression. But in CCTV, that is not sent. It will compress efficiently using special codecs H.264, H.265, and then send the video, so you don't end up with too much storage, right? So all that is done in the camera. At the end, it's only sending the data. So all the process, all the analytics, all the everything that the camera should do is done. I mean, is done on the field, on the camera side itself. Okay, that's why it's IP camera. Okay, now going to the sensor, there are two types, CCD and CMOS. CCD used to be famous 10 years back. 10 years back when we had analog cameras, analog, right? Analog means analog, you need a cable, analog cables, like analog TV. It is not digital. It is not digital signal, neither is it, does it have IP address, nothing. So in the olden days, analog cameras used CCD sensors, but in the IP cameras, they all use CMOS. Okay, you can take your iPhone, you can take your Samsung phone, go to the website of datasheet, check the sensor, it will be CMOS, right? A lot of technology and advancement has happened in the CMOS. So today, CMOS does a great job for high resolution. If you look for megapixel camera, today you will only find in CMOS. Maybe one or two you may find, but 99% of the cameras you'll find is CMOS lens. Also, IP cameras, you know, analog cameras, you have to give external power supply. You need to connect a power cord, right? You have to carry a power cord, or next to the power supply, you have to give the camera. IP camera, they take power from the switch. So you need to save some power. CMOS is good at that. It doesn't take much power compared to a CCD sensor. So roughly speaking, both does the same job. Functionally, both is doing the same job. And today CMOS is most commonly used. So don't go back and say, I still need CCD. It's not going to help. You cannot find also. So be comfortable to understand that CMOS sensors are much better now and good. Okay, now let's cover this one more topic and take a break. Wide dynamic range, very simple. Um, a camera is like a human eye. A camera is like a human eye. When there is too much sunlight, okay, the actual scene is having a lot of sunlight, right? So what it does, it will close its eye. So let me zoom here to tell you how it looks like. You see here, a camera, if there is too much sunlight from outside, it will close its eyes. That's why the image is dark. This is a camera which does not have WDR function. The person who's standing here or sitting here, I cannot see him. So if a person is coming through the entrance door, I cannot see him, right? If most of the entrances, for example, you can take some example here. This is a scene with very outside there is light. inside the hotel there is less light. So if I put a camera here, it thinks there is too much light and it will close its eyes automatically. So camera is just uh, not that intelligent. So for that there is a technology called WDR. We'll come to that. Now here you see outside how bright it is. As soon as you go inside, it is dark. So there is two lighting conditions and the camera has to see both. Okay. So this is a situation of a typical example of a WDR scene when there is two types of lighting. There is a sunlight from outside and there is indoor lighting. Both are different. See here, the sunlight actual intensity of light is very high, and but the camera has reduced its exposure, trying because it doesn't want to get overexposed. You see the overexposure, it's like pure white. Okay, when it is converting the signal, light signal, it goes to peak 100, full 100. It thinks okay, it's pure white. Okay, so but actually there is sky. The sky is blue. So many things, so many details are there outside, but the camera cannot really understand because it's too bright. Okay, so what the camera does, you can tell the camera, okay, there is something outside, try to reduce exposure. So this is the default mode, non-WDR camera. You can tell the camera, okay, the scene is too dark, increase the brightness, open the eyes. You can force the camera to do it. You can force the camera to increase the exposure. But when you do that, this is what happens. It's called long exposure. You can see the guy inside, but outside is gone. So you don't know what's happening outside. So roughly speaking, there is a challenge when you do WDR scene. You don't know whether who's outside and you don't know what's happening inside. So let me try to explain to you with a live demo. Today is not that bright, but let's see. Okay, so here you can see the scene. I've taken a short recording. So here you go. This is a camera, uh, just a typical camera. When the WDR is off, outside the window, I cannot see anything. So if someone is standing there, it will just be bright. You have no idea who's standing there. You cannot see his face. So firstly, this scene, there are two lighting. One, you can see there is, I have some lights here. You can see that. Pen, here you go. You can see there are fluorescent lights. It is giving roughly 300 to 400 lux because it's a training room. But you can also see from outside there is a lot of sunlight. Okay, what is the measure of sunlight? Around 10,000 lux. If you measure that light, it is around 10,000. Okay, minimum. Okay, let me go back. Okay, play the video. When I activate WDR, now I can see what's happening outside. as well as what's going on inside. So the overall image is now balanced. The lighting is balanced. How is this happening? What the camera does, it takes two pictures. First, it will take the picture in, going back to that slide. So the camera takes two pictures. The first picture is called short exposure picture, where it can see the details outside. The second picture is called long exposure, where it can see the details inside. Then it does a couple of things called dynamic range management, tone mapping. This is okay. Right now, it's not important. Basically, what it does, it mixes or it blends these two pictures into a single image where you can now see outside as well as inside. So how does it do? It takes the useful part of the short exposure, which is the outside view, and it takes the useful part of the inside picture and combines it. Okay, so this is a WDR camera. So if you notice, a WDR feature requires the camera to work 2 times more faster. At the same time, it has to capture more pictures and combine it. So if you need 30 frames, it has to capture 60 frames and combine every two pictures to give you 30 frames. Okay, you see this video. Without WDR, it's too bright outside, it's overexposed. But with the WDR, the details are very nice and clear. Okay, so WDR is also referred as multi-exposure because it takes multiple pictures. If one, two, for some of our cameras, instead of taking two, it will take four pictures and it will combine it as a single picture. So WDR is also referred as multi-exposure camera. So WDR is measured in decibels, 120 dB, 130 dB, 140, 150 dB. Higher the decibel, higher the contrast it can handle. Contrast means very bright outside and very dark inside. That contrast level can be very high. If the WDR value is very high, it can handle that. So, let's take so if you take a camera, you see here WDR value is mentioned. So this particular camera has got 150 dB WDR. It can give you 60 frames. So it is actually capturing more frames and merging them to give you 60 frames. Okay, we'll keep that later. So idea is WDR is measured in decibels. Higher the decibel, higher the contrast it can handle. The minimum that you should look for is at least 120 dB. We have 120 also. Not all our cameras are 150. So we have here 120 dB as well. So camera should have minimum 120 dB and it should be minimum true WDR, TRUE, true WDR. Now the reason for the true word, let me say true WDR. You see here, you don't have, okay, now you can understand this example. A camera with true WDR captures two images as a minimum with two different light exposures and merges them into a third image, thus compensating for the light intensities to achieve an overall optimal illumination result. I hope you got the idea. This is from some other company who's explaining WDR. Now it makes sense to you, I believe. Okay, so it has to capture two different images, two different light exposures. Close the eye and open the eye. Not close completely, just reduce that light exposure and capture, and increase and capture, merge the best of both and give you one single image. Okay, and the the there is another WDR called fake WDR. Digital WDR, what it does, it just uses algorithms instead of sensors. Okay, digital WDR or fake W, it's not called fake, it's called digital WDR or electronic WDR. They don't capture two pictures because the processor cannot handle it. So what they do, they will do some software adjustment to increase the brightness and reduce the brightness and so on. It can never be perfect compared to a true WDR. In fact, it should not be used in a WDR scene. You will just end up with a much bigger headache. Secondly, 8080. See, this camera has got 120 dB. Okay, we need to download datasheet. Yeah, 120 WDR 120. So many vendors have now standard. All of them are 120 dB as a minimum. So look for true WDR. All our cameras are true WDR. There may be certain vendors they use still software based WDR. Just keep that in mind that when you are working in the critical scene, when you have a project for a critical scene and you're looking at the price and someone gives you a value option, a reduced price option, what is this value at? Okay, are they compromising WDR? Because if they compromise the WDR, imagine you have a scene like this. Let me go back to this picture, this parking area. Like if you don't have WDR, it can see only one, either inside or out, dark scene or bright scene. It cannot blend both. Okay, here you see the compound. If the compound wall is throwing a shadow, this car you cannot see. You see there is a car here. If there is a lot of shadow and it's very dark, the camera will miss if it does not have WDR. So it should handle multiple lighting conditions here also. All right, so you get the idea. If the lighting is constant, uniform, the artificial lighting always on or off in the night time, it's okay. There is no sunlight influence, it's okay. You can use a non-WDR camera. WDR, does it work in the night time? If you have two different lighting in the scene, two different contrast lighting in the scene, that is the purpose of WDR. If in the night time the scene is all dark, you don't need WDR. All right, so let's take a break and we'll catch up in 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. All right. Let's continue. Just to revise what we've learned. I mean, before that, housekeeping. So the PowerPoint slides, they will be emailed to you, as well as the quiz link will be emailed to you. Attendance and quiz participation is mandatory for the certification. And attendance, you don't have to do any manual attendance. This is generated by the system. It's a webinar software. It tracks. So it's the attendance. So that is more than enough for us to identify whether the attendee uh, participated in the or the or you participated in the event. Okay. All right. So we talked about vendor classification, basically how to identify a good vendor for your project, and also we talked about certain technologies, chipset, and other things, and WDR. Now we go forward to certain lighting related technologies. As you know, the camera, the main objective of the camera is to capture image, which is all based on light, right? So so we'll be talking about first the WDR, which is highlight. To I mean, not when there is too much of background lighting and the person in front of the background light looks dark because of too much background light, right? So you need a WDR camera to adjust the two different lightings and give you a unified picture. This can happen when there is sunlight, which is 10 times more than what a human can give with standard artificial lighting. My training room is around 300 to 400 lux. Outside is 10,000 lux. It's much more than that. So there is a need for WDR in that scenarios. Okay. Next, we will see low light. Low light is the sorry. I think before we go to low light, let's talk about IR. Okay. Nighttime. Nighttime. When you switch off the lights in the night in your bedroom or in your hall or wherever you sleep. So, you cannot see immediately anything. Everything looks dark, right? If you want to walk around, you need to maybe turn on the light or use your mobile light, or you should have a night lamp, right? You need to have some amount of light to see. Human beings, we don't have IR vision, we don't have night vision. We need light to see. Same thing with the camera. They need light to see, but they can handle two types of lighting: visible light, which we can see, white light. Then cameras can also handle IR light, invisible, infrared rays or infrared lighting. They can see. That's why inside the camera you will find LEDs. I had shown one. You see these LEDs. These are IR LEDs, infrared LEDs. They can have bulbs. It can have SMT based LEDs. There are different technologies, but in simply put, IR LEDs inside the camera. So what happens when the lights are switched off in the night, or when the camera is outdoor and there is no street lighting or there is no lighting at all? The camera cannot see, so you need cameras with IR to see in night. Now IR has a range. There is a range to how much it can see, that light can go. Some cameras can go up to 70-meter IR, we call IR viewable length. Some cameras can go up to 50 meters, some 30 meters, some 20 meters. So when you have a camera with IR, does not mean you can see end of the road. It will be specified in each camera based on the camera spec, how much it can see. You cannot also say I need 1 kilometer. That means you need a lot of power, and you cannot have a PoE camera. In that case, what you do, you buy separate LEDs, separate power supply, and give. If you want camera with built-in IR, there will be some limitation, how much distance. And most of the cameras are installed every 20-30 meters. So it is good enough for most CCTV applications. But the thing with IR is it looks, the image will be black and white. Okay, there are many additional technologies inside the IR. So you can see some brands, they will only focus the IR LED in the center. It will not evenly distribute. So all this, it's related to the brand, how they engineer it. Okay, on the right side, you can see even distribution, but you see the image is black and white. That is the thing with IR. It's not visible light, it's IR, shades of black and white. Now, some customers don't need black and white image, they want color image. So what they do, you go for a low light camera. Okay, that means the camera is called low light because whatever light it can receive, it will make the best use of that light. Okay, very highly efficient image lenses and sensors. Okay, they use a separate sensor, a bigger sensor. You remember the picture I showed you initially, the sensor here, this inside, this sensor, it will be much more bigger. Secondly, the lens also will have a bigger opening or aperture. It's called light gathering capability, referred as f-stop. The thing is, smaller the f-stop, bigger the aperture opening. 0.95 is bigger than 1.4. 1.4 opening is double than 1.8. Same way, um, f by 2 opening is double the opening of f by 4 or f by 8. So smaller the number, bigger the opening, higher the number, smaller the opening for the light to go inside. Okay, now it is the lens. So opening of what? The lens. Okay, so the lens also uh, should be customized with higher opening. Most of the lenses you can take any lens. For example, you take this lens. That is the f-stop. You see here f-stop, f1 point, any lens you can take 3 to 9, f1.3. You can open any camera datasheet in the world. You will see f1.4, 1.3, 1.2. Lower the number, better the lens. Good lenses. They can capture good low light. Yeah. So the thing is, there is some challenges. The more bigger the opening, the more challenging for the camera to focus. Okay. So that's why many vendors they start with 1.4. They start with 1.5. You can take any US, European, everybody have similar challenges, and you will see them safely starting with 1.5. That means the camera is good daytime, but nighttime it will not be great. Okay, so you can look for cameras which have the best f-stop if you need low light, if you need a night vision properly and get color image. So for example, you see a typical camera looks black and white, but they want color image. They want to know which color car is going. So here there is a camera on the left side without low light, and the same camera, not same camera, same scene, another camera with low light. The difference is like day and night, right? The lights are still on, the building lights are still on. Now you can see completely more clear. This is a low light camera. So whatever light is available, it will capture that light, and the sensor is big enough to handle that particular light and give you as low as 0.005. Okay, at full 30 frames per second at a good shutter speed 1 by 30. Some vendors will give you 0.00000 something, but they cannot give 30 frames per second and all that. They will give you one picture every 2 seconds. That is not good, because when 2 seconds the person can run, come, take and go, or in 2 seconds the car will pass the scene. It will not be there in the scene. So that anybody can do with I can also put 10 seconds and give you 0.00000 something. But CCTV objective is to capture real time. When a person is walking, you should see who's walking, you should see his features. When a car is growing, you need to see what the car is. So in real time, if you want to monitor, check for that. The camera will have good f-stop, camera will have good sensor. These two plus some software enhancements gives you the best low light images. So low light, the benefit is it will not give black and white, it will give color image, and it still depends on visible light, not IR. Okay, Okay. Now there are some brands now instead of IR they have white LED. Okay, we are also planning to have it. So in the night time, it will be like a torch light. The camera will put a light and view the scene, give you a color image. Some projects they are okay. Back in the time, people didn't want it, but nowadays people are okay for outdoor environments. They're okay. Okay, so we are also looking to have that option into the cameras. Okay, now when you have PTZ camera which is zooming in, right? So for example, camera trying to zoom in. So I'm zooming in around a kilometer here. Now, if I still want to see low light, if I want to see in zero light with IR, okay, not low light. Now let's go to IR. How will you give the IR LED for that distance? So there is a technology called variable IR. The IR LED will have a lens, and when you zoom in, the IR beam also zooms in. Okay, so we can achieve around 500 particular technology in so what is the benefit? And you need a long range LED separately because the PTZ camera can zoom in, zoom out, can see different angle. So for every angle you need one LED. That is not going to work. So when you have zoom based LED, it can adjust accordingly to the zoom. Okay. Okay, so we talked about WDR, multi-exposure, IR illumination. We talked about low light, all that. Then we also talked about camera construction. There is the camera can be indoor or outdoor, right? The camera can be indoor or outdoor. Indoor or outdoor. How do you know if the camera is outdoor? There is a specification called IP rating, ingress protection, protection from dust and water. Dust and water. There are two factors which can damage the camera. Dust, because if there is a lot of dust inside, lens cannot capture light properly. If there is water inside, electronic components can get damaged. So the first number is um, dust. The second number is for water. If you want an outdoor camera for any CCTV environment, go with minimum IP66. This is the most commonly used in our region, Middle East region. IP66. 6 means what? Full protection against dust. Another 6 means what? Protection against powerful jet of water. That means even if someone is cleaning the camera with water intentionally, still it can handle the water from going inside. It will have water seals, it will have gaskets and protection for water to penetrate inside the camera. If you want a camera without IP, it is also available. Simply, it will not be mentioned. If you take a camera here, XND 6080, this is a indoor camera. Uh, Indoor camera. If you go to the IP rating, it will not be mentioned itself. That means it's not an IP camera. Similarly, if you go to XNV 8080 or 6080R, we will see any. It's an outdoor model. The moment you go to an outdoor model, it will be specified. Let me take this guy. This is the one standard model. It will be mentioned IP66, IP67. At least you need IP66. Okay, some will have NEMA 4X. This is an alternate to IP66, slightly superior compared to IP66. NEMA 4X slightly superior, but minimum you need IP66 for outdoor environment. Okay, that I then what is the thing with vandal protection. Vandal protection and IP protection is different. Vandal protection, IK rating. This is IP rating. This is IK rating. It's an international standard. How resistant a product is to impact. Impact of what? Someone having a hammer and trying to damage the bubble of the camera, bubble or the camera itself, the metal of the camera, and it should not shatter or break inside, and then the image will stop. That is impact resistance. So the highest impact resistance is IK10. This is the industry standard IK10. A person with a hammer trying to break, he cannot do it. It will not damage the camera. So that is IK10. All right. So there is IK10 plus plus. All this is CCTV specific additional function. So they will say, okay, maybe he has two hammer or whatever. But the standard is IK10. More than that, well and good. Minimum should be IK10 for vandal protection. Then cameras can have additional features, SD card for recording if there is an incident. Maybe in your project you can have 20 or 20 cameras, but one camera can have SD card as a backup recording in case someone takes a DVR. Cameras, we have cameras with 5,000 cameras for the banks. They all have SD card because they want a protection. They want dual recording. They want to record on the SD card and on the NVR also. So both are possible. Then everything else is optional. We have installation feature where you can connect to the camera and make easy installation. So these are optional accessories that adds value to the camera. So here the installer connects a Wi-Fi dongle only for installation. After that, he will remove it, go to the next camera and plug it in and check the view. So before, people used to carry a laptop or call the control room and ask, hey, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I move the lens down? You don't have to do that now. There are many installer friendly features. Then focal length. Focal length is the zoom level. The more the focal length, the more you can zoom. Okay, we'll come. Okay, some of the questions need more time. I will explain in the end. Focal length 2.8 to 12. 2.8 to 12. Just see this number 2.8 to 12. You will see this commonly in many CCTV. Okay, let me try to take a camera which I have 2.8 to 12. Let's see, I have here. Okay, so this is the best example. I'm just logging into the camera, username and password. Once I log in, you can see the camera is at a certain wide view. So uh, let's go back here, lens, focus setup. So fully zoomed out, I can zoom in a bit. Okay, so I can zoom in or I can fully zoom out. Now, let's say when you install a camera in a room, your idea is to cover as much area as possible. So here I have a camera. My area, whatever this camera can cover, how much ever it can cover, how much wide it can cover, I want to use that. So I will zoom all the way out. I will cover as wide as possible. Okay, I can even see so wide that I can even see the camera next mounted to it. So here I can see even the ceiling, everything I can see. So you got the idea. This is like a 2.8 or 3 lens. Okay, so most of the projects you will install like this. Okay, remember there. Let's say there is no door, there is no entrance. Just you're viewing the whole sitting area, waiting area, lobby, room, corridors like that. You will see as wide as possible. Okay, all right. Now, if there is an entrance, you will probably try to focus on the entrance. Okay, so the most of the cameras they will focus up to 5-10 meters roughly, right? You will not install the camera 20 meters away and then focus far. Not really a practical scenario in most cases. That's why almost every camera on the market will have 3 to 10 or 2.8 to 12. Okay, at 2.8, it will give you 110-degree field of view. So if you see here the view, if I go all the way back, it is giving more than 90 degree. Okay, I can the how you know it's more than 90 degree, you can see the camera next to it, so it is a very wide angle. Okay, and when you zoom all the way, when you zoom all the way in, okay, in the data sheet it tells you up to 26 degree, right? When you do 26 degree, your camera is only viewing some area, not all. Okay, so most of the projects, they are within this limit. That's why you will have almost every camera, 99% of the cameras will have 2.8 for fixed domes. But there are cameras with bigger lenses. Okay, sometimes the entrance is very far. Okay, the hotel is having a very big entrance, or it's a big public hall, it's a big exhibition hall, right? Or it's like a metro station entrance, not our some other region, they have big entrances. So, or there is no ceiling, the ceiling height is very high, so they will install on a very far distance. So there, if you want to capture the entrance, there are cameras with lenses. For example, this guy, instead of instead of 2.8 to 12, it has 5 to 60. So you can zoom a lot. Okay. So if it is outside, you can see almost till the mission, like 20 meters, 25 meters, you can get a very narrow field of view. So this angle will be like 5 or 6 degree, right? So occasionally you need bigger lenses, but most of the projects, they will have standard 2.8 to 12 lens. Okay, so this is called the focal length. The wider the angle, the smaller the focal length, the wider the angle, wide it can cover. And you need to see, at least you should have 90 degree. Okay, most of the rooms are rectangular, so at least 90 degree you need. Then 12 mm. If you want to zoom, some level of flexibility is good to have. Okay, if it is entrance cameras looking for faces or number plates, you must have adjustable lens with a range. You must have as much range as possible. That is good. Okay, again, in CCTV you will not find every single lens in the world. You will find certain groups, 2.8 to 12, 5 to 50, 8 to 80. So you will find these common, standards of lenses. So you cannot say I need 1 to 11. You cannot ask for that. You cannot say I want 1 to 2, 1 to 5, like that. You will have ranges only, specific ranges, right? Um, some vendors, they will have special ranges, but very rare. Roughly speaking, you have to get an idea. Most of the vendors will have 3 to 9 or 2.8 to 12. And this is the range. Some will have 5 to 60 or 5 to 50. So that is good. So you can also look for those cameras for the entrances. Next, higher the focal length, 600 mm, smaller the angle. Wider the, smaller the lens, wider the angle. Okay. PTC cameras are referred as zoom ratios. 37x. Why it is called 37x? Because you have to divide the maximum focal length by the minimum focal length. 222 divided by 6. So if you see the PTC camera here, I want the camera to zoom in as well as I want the camera to zoom out. So right now, when the camera is zoomed out, I can see what's happening in the entire view, right? I can see the overall view. But when I zoom in, I can see one particular building, what's going on. So a PTC camera should have wide angle. Also, it should have good long angle. Okay, if you start from 50 to 222, that means you will have very narrow angle to start with. Okay, so that's not a good camera. You should have as wide as possible as well as narrow as possible. Okay, that's a good PTZ camera. The division 261 261 divided by 4.75 is 55x. I have recently seen 73x, but that is 220 something divided by 3, 73x. So it is 220 divided by 3. So don't get fooled by zoom ratio. Check the data sheet. What is the maximum focal length? Okay. So this is 50x, right? I can even make 60x. 60 mm divided by 1. 1 to 60 mm. That is 60x. So if I start from 1 to 60 mm, that is 60x. So don't get fooled by this number. Check for the datasheet what is the maximum focal length. Okay, let me just double check if this part of today's. So we have covered WDR, low light, IR. Okay, there is two more. We talked about iris. Okay, we'll see that. Resolution, focal length. Okay. Okay. Then cameras with look for light. There are cameras which don't need light. They look for body heat. Okay. There are cameras which don't depend on light to provide image. They are called thermal cameras. So they check the body temperature. So you see there is a, you cannot see the face of the person, that is okay, but it gives you the shade difference based on the body heat. Okay, so these are called thermal cameras where you don't have light availability. There is no light in the scene. Then you use thermal cameras. For example, outdoor environments, forest monitoring, perimeter monitoring, border security monitoring, seashore monitoring, desert monitoring, where you cannot fix lights, right? Then you would look for thermal cameras. And they have very long range, the kilometer, 1 kilometer, 3 kilometer, and they can give you that based on the heat generated by the person or car. They can tell you there is an object moving in the scene or there is an intrusion in the scene. Okay, then there is something referred as highlight. Okay, let me highlight compensation. This is also something that is useful to know. What is highlight? When there is it's like opposite of WDR. There is no lighting. It's all dark. Environment is very dark. But suddenly, imagine this, yeah. When you're sleeping at night, suddenly someone turns on the light. Your eyes start to feel, um, some sensation will be there. Uncomfortable sensation will be there in your eyes, right? Suddenly there is a lot of light. Your eyes cannot handle it immediately. Okay, it takes some time. Same way in the camera, when the camera is looking at a scene and overall everything is dark, so the camera has adjusted its settings, iris and everything. Suddenly there is a car headlight. So the camera will feel that same issue, that is called blooming issue. That will affect the nearby pixel because the camera is expecting no light and suddenly there is a car headlight. Okay, so that feature is called highlight compensation. Okay, this is not sensor based, this is software based. It will just mask that light area with like a black patch or a gray patch. We can choose a color. It will just mask that bright area. So that blooming, this blooming effect will be reduced. You cannot remove it, it will reduce it. Overexposure will be reduced. So good for number plates and certain areas. If there is a advertisement board, only that advertisement board is so bright, everything is dark nearby, maybe you can enable and mask that area only. So it will just help the camera to capture the image more clearly. Okay, that is called a highlight compensation or HLC. Next is resolution. Hi Al Hosani, you have a question? Okay. Okay, next is resolution. Higher the resolution, higher the pixel, higher the detail in the scene, right? Um, so higher the resolution simply does not mean it will take the same storage. More details, more pixels, more storage. Okay, so this is the fundamental. Now, next, every scene there is a criteria. What do you expect from the scene? That criteria is called the Doris standard: detection, observation, recognition, identification, strong identification. Okay, Doris standard: detection, first letters, observation, recognition, identification, and strong identification. Any camera should do at least detection. What is detection? 10% of the scene should be visible. Okay, so I have a question. What if I activate HLC on a daytime? So you see here, it will mask the tube lights and all that. So you can, let me show you here. Here in the scene, according to the camera, the light sources are the, the ceiling lights, flushed ceiling lights. If I activate here HLC, go to camera setup, you will not see much change, but I can just show you backlight HLC. So you see it just masked all this lights on the top. Okay, let me switch off. So the lights here. So the strong light sources, it will just mask. Okay, but it doesn't mean it is making the image night, right? That's all. Okay, uh, detection, observation, recognition, identification, and strong identification. Okay, detection. That means the person should be at least 10% of the screen height. So I'm not sure what screen you're using, but if your screen is, let me take the pen. This is the screen height. Excuse me. The body representation should be 10% of the screen height. Okay, then the person. Okay, if I'm drawing this guy, okay, the whole person should be 10% of the screen. That allows the person to detect, oh, there is some guy in the scene. Identification, 50%. So half the screen So recognition, half the screen should be the person. How do you get 120%? Okay, 120% is identification. So face, the person's face will be here on top of the screen, and the body is here. Okay, let me draw. Okay, just imagine, forgive this, yeah, I'm just using this Microsoft PowerPoint, is the legs and feet. Okay, but you cannot see the feet because only 100% is covered by the screen. The remaining is outside the screen. The feet and unnecessary part is outside the screen. So 100% means head to feet you can see in the full screen. 120% means you can see from head to knee. From knee onwards, it is outside. It is outside the screen. Okay, that is 120%. 200% means only half the person you can see. From head to waist, you can see from top to bottom of the screen. All right. So going back to this view, if a person is walking through this door, the full height of the person is 100%, and I need 100% view, right? So that means zoom in, zoom in. So let's say the person is roughly 1.7 meters. Sorry. So when the person is walking in, I should see from his head to the knee. If I see from head to feet, that is 100%. Head to knee, the remaining is outside the screen. So that is 120%. If I want 200%, I will only see from head to so and so waist. That is 200%. Okay. That is strong identification. Now, that is the body representation standard. There is one more standard. Both are completely different. Words are same, but the expectation criteria is different. Okay, body representation does not depend on pixel. You can use a 100 megapixel camera, you can use 1 megapixel camera, doesn't matter. I need the person in the screen 100%. You need to zoom in and show 100% of the person or 120% of the person. I don't care what resolution you use. But there is another standard which is more commonly used globally, en standard 62676. This requires pixels. So if you use high resolution, you can get the benefit because it only depends on pixel. Higher the pixel, more you can cover. Okay. So I will show you another this, recognition, identification. I will show you something which this is I have taken online. This document. You may have seen it out somewhere else, but this is 500 pixel per meter. You can see with the standard camera, I can see the person, car, and person, all that. Okay. I can see 400 pixels, 300 pixels, okay, 200 pixels, 150 pixels, 50 pixels. So according to this standard, 20 to 50 pixels, let's go back to the slide, erase all. According to this standard, 20 to 50 pixel is required for detection. Okay. There is another, okay, I have a question. What is the difference between ppm and ppf? ppm is pixel per meter, ppf is pixel per foot. So American standard foot. We use European, right? Metric. So meter. All right. So here we go. 20 pixel to 50 pixel detection. You know something is there, but you don't know who's the person. Okay. Recognition. 125 pixel. Okay, 125. You, if you know this guy, from if he's your friend, you know I know this guy. He's Samuel, and I'm sure it is Samuel. You recognize this person. Let's say you never know him, you don't know this guy. What you will say, can you zoom more? This is what is identification. Okay, now when you zoom and you see the face clearly, you know, ah, I think this is not Samuel, this is his brother, maybe Richard. Okay, so that is identification. You know for sure who the person is. Strong identification is when you have no lighting. You see the face with much more details, um, because that particular scene there is sunlight. If there is no sunlight, maybe his face will not be clear. So if you want to guarantee a good identification in all lighting, you use 200% or 500 pixels per meter. Okay. Now, when you do pixel concept, you cannot say I will use I will use half megapixel camera, because it depends on pixels, right? So you higher the pixel, more you can cover. Okay. So this standard is used in Abu Dhabi. It's used in many other regions. Dubai police still use this. Sometimes they use ppm, but majority they use body representation, because you can never go wrong with this. For sure, you need 120%. That means the person face for sure is guaranteed. It will be clear, right? So that is 120% concept. But the problem with 120% body representation is, even if you use 4K camera, there is the end user has no benefit. You can, if you use a ppm standard, you can cover three entrances. But with the body representation standard, every door you need one camera. So there is for the investment there is no return much, because you use the standard body representation. So analog days we used to do this. IP days we are following ppm. Okay. Okay. Now, what is your takeaway? Any camera should do minimum detection. Okay. Your project you can classify in three areas. Area one, first point of entry. Any area where the person is coming for the first time, identification. Every other area, recognition. Every area he's entering for the first time, you want to know who it is, identification. After that, you already identified. So, you know, wherever he is, you recognize, I know this guy is so and so. Okay. If the area is too big, too large, parking areas and gardens, roundabouts, street surveillance, you go for detection. Okay, because you need many cameras if you do a recognition. For that parking lot which you saw in the PDF, if I do detection, I can cover the entire parking lot. If I do identification, I need 10, 20 cameras. So what is your objective? Detection, just want to know what's happening in the parking lot, go for detection, and maybe have one PTZ to zoom and check. How to draw this? We have tools. There are many tools available, free tool and paid tools. Many vendors are providing tools now. Uh, Let me take an example of our tool and also a third party tool. Okay. So our website is Hanwa Security. If you just type in Google Hanwa Security, I think we'll finish after this topic, cover the rest tomorrow. Hanwa Security. Go to the website. When you go to the website, the global website, the first one, click on toolbox. You see the toolbox on the right side? Okay, if it is in Korean language, you can change to English, not a problem. Click on Toolbox Plus. Go to Network Camera on the left. Okay, and you can take any camera. You can start with a box camera. Take any camera. Okay, and there is an option here called Field of View, FOV, Field of View. Click. Now it tells you, you have an idea. Okay, if I move the camera with 3 meter height, and the person is at 15 meters, what can I get? I can get 146 pixel. According to the Dory guide, 146 is not identification, it is recognition. Okay, if you need identification, I need more zoom lens. So I need a zoom lens of at least 14 or 15 mm. I can get 300 pixels identification at 15 meters. Okay, so this is how you get a basic idea. How to draw in the AutoCAD? You have to go to AutoCAD is top view, right? Not side view. So when you put top view, you have to draw a camera first. Draw a 15-meter line. So let me take another pen. Let me take here. You first put a block, draw a camera, draw 15-meter line. Okay, and then here it tells you the okay, horizontal width 5.7. That means from 15 meters, from 15 meters from the center 5.7, you can two options. You can divide by two, so 2 point something. You can draw here. Let me take there's a comment in the color. You can draw here 2.7, 2.7. So it should come to around 5.2.7. Okay, whatever. So you divide 5.7 by 2 and draw half here, half down, and make the cone. Okay, that is one. Other option is you see here horizontal field of view 21 degree. So where is so you again draw 15-meter line 21 degree. So draw here 10.5, 10.5, draw the angle and cut. This is how you get the field of view. Okay, now if you want, you can also put AutoCAD drawings, or there's the option here called map. This is not part of the quiz, so this particular procedure, this is just for information. You can upload a map. So let me take desktop. Okay, demo floor, first floor. Okay, you have to calibrate. Just ask the person what is the width of the door, roughly 1 meter. Okay, you calibrate the map for 1 meter. Done. So map is calibrated. Now you can drag and drop the camera and you can rotate the view and check. If a person is coming through the door, okay, maybe I need to fill a few focal length. Okay, if the person is coming through the door, I can get identification more than 250 pixel. So I can cover two doors with one camera. So if I go near 600, if I keep going far, 300, 3 to 90 pixels per meter. Okay, in the camera web page also you can measure pixels. So if I go to the camera 192.56, uh, how do you check on the field? I can take this box icon. I can measure here my door 900 pixels because I'm so zoomed in. I can get 900 pixels. So I can get more than strong identification if a person is coming through the door. 900 pixels for 1 meter. So pixel per meter is 900 pixel per meter. Okay, so you got the idea. Now third party tool, I think we can see later. So for today, I think this should be enough. This image file only it accepts. This particular tool accepts image file. So if I want to add one more floor, so it's I think image file only, yes. So you have to convert it as image file. All right, so questions not related to today's topic we cannot cover today. For example, HTTP, HTTP, this comes under the networking and cybersecurity section. We'll cover during that time. But is it okay if the camera is, it is not okay. HTTPS is secure, so it should be there. And so is it okay if camera has only HTTP? If the camera should have both options for sure, HTTP and HTTPS. Next, I have a question. Can you briefly explain recording on SD card and NVR? Um, this is very special projects. The camera will record on the SD card, and in parallelly it will be recording on the NVR. If for some reason the NVR is disconnected, so there is a chance the recording stops for that time. Maybe NVR is running fine, but the switch disconnected. Maybe cable disconnected. So in that time, you still have a backup recording in the SD card, right? So that is the benefit of using cameras with SD card recording, but it's a very expensive to do because you have to buy SD card for each camera. You have to give two power supply, one Cat 6 PoE power, and you have to give external power also. So okay, so for example here, let me pause the back view of the camera. You can see the camera has got external power option here as well. Sorry, not this, the right side, these two. This is external power, plus and minus, and as well as it has got network port. Okay, so it has two SD card. Some will have only one SD card. So when the network disconnects, it is still powered over external power, and recording is saved in the SD card. When the network is back, you can push the recording back to the NVR. Okay, another question. There is nothing called identification camera. There is nothing called recognition camera. There is nothing called detection camera. Any camera which has that lens and resolution can do identification or recognition. Okay, so it purely depends on the lens and sensor and resolution. Sensor very little, but mainly resolution and lens very important. That is what gives you that view. Okay, so it can be our camera brand or any camera brand. If you have the specific lens and the resolution, you will get a certain view. That is this. And why some cameras are specially called identification? Because WDR is required. True WDR. You have to make sure true WDR is required. Many brands still don't have WDR series. They call it 120 dB, but it's not true WDR. Okay, so that is why you still have to use the word true WDR, and they simply call it identification cameras. Or another reason why identification cameras are special, because they have more lens. So this guy maybe 5 to 50 lens. So special lenses are available, um, or or you will use special lenses in this area. So ideally speaking, if the door is only 2-3 meters away and from the camera, any basic camera with 3 to 10 can do identification. All right. I hope that clarifies. If there are any further questions, you can let me know. You can expect an email from me either by end of day with the link for the quiz as well as the copy of the PowerPoint and recording as well. All right. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow. We will cover the rest topics tomorrow, including networking part. Have a great day and be in touch. Thank you.